Jaha, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear conference participants. First of all, we want to welcome the new guests who arrived with us. And yesterday you met Professor Jeroen Lutters at the dinner. And we also have two other speakers who has arrived, and it's Pablo Jeroen, who will be the keynote speaker tomorrow, and Töres, Professor Emeritus Töres Theorell, who will speak today. And also our former chairman in Amateo, Willy Dove, and the founder of Amateo, has arrived. You are all warmly welcome. Very briefly, today the first two presentations and also the General Assembly will be covered for internet, so you can look it through afterwards at the website. And all our presentators also have promised to send their presentations digital, so that you can have it afterwards. The program, very briefly, the morning hours. First, we have a presentation from Professor Jeroen Lutters, welcome, and then we have a presentation from Professor Emeritus Töres Theorell. And then we have a lunch break. After that, we will have the General Assembly meeting. We have new programs, updated programs. And after the General Assembly meeting, we will go through the rest of the program. So, today I am proud to present to you Professor Jeroen Lutters, who is Lector Didactiek and inhoud van de kunstvakken Windersheim University from Netherlands, who will speak of the theme, the art of aging. And Professor Jeroen Lutters works as a professor at Artes Institute of the Arts and a professor of Windersheim University and a rector of Bernard Levegoed University in Netherlands, and has previously worked at the University of Amsterdam and University of Utrecht. Welcome.
Thank you. Do I need this? Because I don't need it for the... How it works. Please help me for a moment.
No,
Yeah.
you don't, just relax.
I get it.
No, just relax.
So this is the first show for the video. I don't think so. Do you hear something?
Does it hurt?
I think it doesn't work like this. I think it works like this.
Okay.
I'm correct? Yes. It was a beautiful show. So, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. To put this somewhere. Okay. I'm pleased you hear it better like this? Or it doesn't work? Yeah? It works now? It works now? Now it is good? Yeah? Okay. So we're not so big in our company that we need it, but I think this is for the... yeah. Okay, welcome. You heard my name is Jeroen Lutters. I'm from the Netherlands, and I was invited here by Wies and the organization here to talk with you and to think with you about what we call the art of aging. Because aging is in a way also an art, and you in amateur art, because I believe most of the people here are working in amateur arts, have to do with people, not only with art but also with people. And these people are in fact the ones who make the art. So when you don't understand the people you're working with, how you can understand how to make art with them, as a teacher or as a professor or in either way. And my occupation is, I'm not myself an artist. I'm a worker in education of art. So I try to help to develop people as a person and give art a place in their lives. And yesterday I talked with some people here. What is my legitimation of doing that? And when we talked about that, I said, and I mostly say that, I have only one legitimation, and that's the fact that I'm an art lover. So I'm your public. I love what you do. And that's the reason why I talk and think about art. It's the only reason for me. Not, yeah, I'm playing a bit piano, but I'm not even an amateur. So it's purely my love for art. So I'm the visitor. I'm the one who listens. I'm the one who thinks what's happening here. I'm the one who wonders, in not understanding what's happening, but feeling something inside of me or thinking something that it may be very important, or maybe that it is for me very important. So about this I'm going to tell something, think with you about some aspects of it. Before I start, it's maybe interesting for you to know that my history in research is that I'm an historian, cultural historian, and cultural analytic person. So my perspective on looking at art is always from a cultural analyze perspective, not so from the social science, not from the natural science or the organizational science, but purely from the side of history and culture. Okay. The art of aging, and there has to stand do instead of D, but maybe the smart ones already thought that. They need to be scared? And that's for me the first question. When I prepared here my lecture, that I wondered about. Do we need to be scared? Do they need to be scared when you work with people who are in amateur art, for example? Do they need to be scared to get older? And that's a question we raise ourselves sometimes in the people who you're working with. And when I'm working in education, this is a very important question, because you know, when you are working in the artistic field, when people are scared, it works quite different than when they are confident in what they do. When you work with piano, or when you work with dance, or when you work with theater, or when you are painting, this inner confidence is, I think, very important. And when you're scary, there's something else working. I try to make these 4 steps. First of all, aging. When you look at aging, you look at a biological problem. That's the first thing I want to think about, and how it works. Then I want to introduce to you some new perspectives in looking at this problem of aging as a biological problem. Third part is understanding. So try to understand what aging also can mean when you have a somewhat more confident view on aging. And in the last part we will look at what has this to do with the aesthetic life. So the art of aging. How does it feel when you put it on the aesthetic view? Let's start. Aging. I'm working a lot with my students in looking to art, and I understand art as a way, as a form of knowledge. So not only as an illustration or not only as a feeling. I'm working a lot with the visual arts, and for me they are complex forms of knowledge. When I ask myself a question like, do we need to be scared of aging? I always search for artworks and what they have to tell us. Do they get answers, or do they only reveal questions? But they can also give answers as a complex form of knowledge. So when I had this question, do we need to be scared of aging? I looked for some pictures, and this picture of Gunther Bruce, Kopfmalen, is very interesting when you put it in the light of this question. You see a head, you see this curve in the middle, is put together again. People, the person is in a way tormented. This sculpture is made by this Gunther Bruce in the period of the Vienna Expressionism. I don't know if you know that, but with persons like Schwarzkogler and Nietzsche, Hermann Nietzsche, they made a kind of art which was very pronounced in about suffering and about pain and about all the things that make life in a way miserable, but they also made it in a way like it was a sort of cultivation of the flesh, of what you feel and how you can feel really your flesh. In these images, for example, Bruss did some things which were very conflicting at that moment. For example, he drank his own urine. He ate his own excrements. So all this cultivation, this celebration, in fact, of the flesh and of the painfully awareness of that a human being is flesh and is tormented. This, in a way, has something to do with this question. When you are thinking about aging, then nobody can come behind the fact that the first stage of life is in fact that you start to grow. Your whole biology, your whole life is growing and growing. But at a certain point, at about when you were 20 years old, you're coming on a kind of equilibrium. So it stops there. This grow and grow and grow. And you have to, it's a kind of fight you're going into that stay on the level you once were. We see it ourselves. I myself see it myself. I'm 54. So between my 20s and my 54, it's like trying to stay and run the show when you look at your body in a way, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And so this is this equilibrium that you try to stay on. And then in a way, in this third period, and this third period is coming, and we all know that it is coming. Yeah, Janet Winterson once said that we could have in one moment a fixed lifetime, so that you can fix your lifetime in future in, I want to be 25 and stay 25 in the rest of my life. And I think maybe this will come in a way, but I think I don't, I'm not the ones who can fix it anymore. So, or it has to be reversed. But so one time when we are living just now, is that we come in a period of involution. When you look at the biological part, so not evolution, but involution. So it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse, till on one time you are seeing yourself lying there at the Maria Magdalena Chapel. I was yesterday, and see these beautiful graveyards, and there the story ends of my biological perspective. Plato, most of us know, I hope. Plato, when he looks at the biological perspective of life, he talks about the shadows. I think most of us knows the story where Plato became famous with. We all live in a space, and we look at a wall, and on the wall we see shadows, and we think that the shadows on the wall are real life, but it ain't so. This Plato said it ain't so. This big philosopher, he tells us that the wall, the shadows, are not the real life. When you want to see, and we are on chains, so we can't move. We only look at this wall. What is important, he says, and there you start to think, there you start to become a philosopher in a way, is that you break this change, you turn around and walk outside of the space you're in, and then see the bright light, but also in the bright light, you see in a way what the world really is. And that then you come into reality. So the reality we see isn't actually the reality. The reality we don't see is actually reality, and we have to turn around to see this reality. So in the perspective of Plato, the biological self, the world we just saw, isn't the reality. This is the shadow reality. This is a play of shadows which takes place there. The applied science, in my opinion, and I work a lot with the applied science, in a way are focused in when we would live in the time of Socrates, the applied science, technology, medicine, biology, they all see aging out of this perspective of that the shadows are the reality. They all look, in fact, at the shadow world, would Plato say, the flesh world, what's happening up there. And they see only the decline, and they try to stop this form of decline. There are some questions, what Plato said, and when you would meet Socrates in it, he would question some things about that. Can we make some new perspectives? Can we think about these things? And these are not new things, but they are universal questions which we think about time after time after time. Bernard Levegoed is one of my inspirations. It's the same, the university I work for is also the Bernard Levegoed University. He wrote this book, for example. It's called Faces, the Spiritual Rhythms in Adult Life, for when people want to read this, or you can buy it with Amazon or something like that. Faces, the rhythm of adult life. It's an other perspective on aging. And for me it has much to do with what art is about. And there is maybe something I have to tell before that I'm often wondering I work a lot with artists, and I often are wondered about the sensitivity at the moment of a lot of artists for when they talk about research and inquiry in the what Plato would say the world of the shadows. And I think, and yesterday I also talked about that with some people when we met outside, that maybe it is something to think about when, in the end, I think when you start to look only at the world of the shadows and count and measure and that kind of things as artist, I don't think you will win the game. I think you will lose the game in the end, because this is another world when we talk about shadows or we talk about reality in arts. But I come to that point. You say it's a bit polemic what I say, so we can have a discussion about this in a moment. Neil Bedford. I don't know, do you know the magazine Kinfold? It's a very beautiful magazine. It's made in Canada. I first thought it was made in Sweden, really. because when you come in Sweden, it's something like this you see when you come out of my country and you look at the world in Sweden. It has something to do with the people behind Kinfold. Kinfold is a magazine where people try to find out what the essence is of life and what the essence is in, for example, a curtain or in wood or in not only the mechanic world, but the world of real special materials. And they have made the 10th magazine of it. It came out in 2013, but when you Google for Kinfold, you will find it. It is about getting old, and old in materials, but also old in people. And there are some beautiful pictures in it, photographs in it, and a few of them are from Neil Bedford. And he made this series about what he called The Grace of Grey. Now, it's a very poetic title, I think, and when we look at grey, often we think grey is getting old. So grey is in a way losing your black hair or losing your blonde hair. In this photograph, you see that there is a kind of celebration of the grey. So the beauty of the grey and the beauty of getting older in a way. And in people like this, but he has a lot of photographs made by it. It's really astonishing, beautiful that you when you were young, you would like to get grey. You know, young is not something you want to stay. You want to become old when you read that. And this isn't just in Kinfold, because when you a good friend of mine, Liedewij Edelkort, yesterday was here at the Museum of Modern Art to have a lecture too. And she is a trend forecaster, so she looks at trends and tries to forecast in what way are we living in 10 or 20 or 30 years. And what she predicts in a way, and she works for very big companies, is that grey becomes hip. Old becomes hip. We look for, as young people, look for the Picassos, the Louise Bourgeois, the Marguerite Yourcenars. They are not interested anymore only in this young and quick and vivid way of living. They want to look for other things like wisdom, like quality, like deepening, like experience, like so. There is a tendency in the world, and that we long for the beauty of getting old again. But we have to, and I come to that point, that is also taking something for us, because you can become old, and that's about, you can become old in a biological form. I don't think that young people would listen to the voice of Leonard Cohen when he only was old, in a biological sense. There is something else, and therefore Leonard Cohen is visited more than ever on the moment. He's 80 years old. His voice is even better than it was ever before. So, but I'm not a musician, but in my opinion. So. Aging could be, and that's the other perspective, a beautiful process. And once we start thinking and working with elderly people in art, and with elderly people for other peoples in art, people in art, from this perspective, I'm old and not a problem. I'm not the one who you put in a position of getting only the art therapy or something like that, but I'm aging and it becomes more and more and more beautiful what I'm doing. So that's quite different in looking to ages. Goethe once said, when you're a child, you are a realist. Children look at the world as a realist. They see what they see. When they see you, when they see me, they see Jeroen, he's standing there, his microphone is talking, that's what they see. And there's no more, it's no less. It's children are very realistic, Goethe once said. So we don't need all these development theories for it. We only have to prove it that is true what he said. But in fact, Goethe knew this. The young man, he says, I'm working a lot with adolescent people, is an idealist. So he is not a realist anymore. He looks at how it should be instead of how it is. So when he sees somebody, when he sees his parents, when he sees his teacher, he has to look at what you should be. That's what he asks of you. And when you work with students, they don't look at you realistic. They look at you what you should be. Are you my teacher? Can you teach me something? Can you make me enthusiastic? Can you give me the information? But it's an ideal which you're looking for. And you are, in effect, a kind of role model in it to make this ideal of their lives to come true. And we all were once, or we are now, adolescent people. Then the man, he becomes skeptic. So a lot of us, when we are professionals in arts, we are in a kind of skeptic, Goethe would say, skeptic life phase. We think, okay, we once were realistic, that was a bit too close. Then we became idealistic, and we wanted everything of the world, and we had our dreams, and so, okay, but we are now in a phase that we think, okay, this went good, this went wrong. Let's get realistic, we then say. Let's get realistic. And what realistic in this life phase means not the reality of the child who sees the phenomena of life, but this is skeptic. Be critical about what you see. Be critical. When I'm standing here and I'm telling you some things, you don't. When my students listen, they want to listen. They want to. But when you talk with researchers, or when you talk with a public of between the 13 and the 50, and I myself too, we listen of where doesn't it fit? Where is the clue? What is this man doing? What does he want from me? And do I want that what he does? So you're not involved, you're not listening to the music, in fact, but you are an outsider. You look from the outside. That's what Goethe said. So that's the skeptic point of view. So that's very important, because science starts there in a very important way. Then the old man, he says, has a new perspective of life. He knows that the skeptical phase was in fact also a kind of play. When you meet older scientists often, they have a sort of understanding of the world that they know from a higher perspective on, okay, I did this play, I did that play, but don't get illusions, I know nothing. So the older they become, the more they know that they know nothing. And that's in a way a kind of mystical phase in life, that you don't are I search for the word, but you are not that committed to life anymore. You can loosen up away and can say, okay, I'm not committed to that because I don't need to commit anymore to that. I can look from a somewhat broader perspective to life and what I did myself. And there, in this phase also, this older scientists I meet can be, there can become kind of comfort in life. And you see this also in real leaders, in real politicians. Why all the youth went behind somebody like Mandela? Because it was a person he loosened up, in a way, life, and said, okay, I've seen this place. This is what Goethe in fact said, and I believe it is still true. What Bernard Levegoed says is that, and he was a psychiatrist, so he worked with people who had a mental disorder in a way, and tried to not work in the world of the shadows with them, so that was their illness, but they tried to work with the world of reality, for them and this inner reality, and try to make, in a way, contact with the phase of life you are in and get strong in it, so that the illness won't be the part that takes up everything. So he tries to stimulate this biographical aspect in it. And especially in the third phase of life, it was very interesting what he had to say about this third phase of life, because we think a lot about children, we think a lot about the second phase of life after getting adult, but we don't think in a positive way in what is the meaning of this third phase of life. And now let's try to understand something more about this third phase of life, what it is. And I just said to you, I'm 54, so I'm just entering this phase in my perspective. I have this beard now for 1 year, I think, or something like that. That's really, and it was a real design decision of myself, because suddenly I realized I don't want to be anymore an older man who looks young, but I want to be now how do I say? I tried to say what I wanted to be was I want to be old and maybe have some young influence in me, but not the other way around. So I don't want to stay young anymore. I don't like to stay young anymore. I really don't like it anymore. And I look to myself and my life as a kind of design. I design myself, not, and it has not to be faint or something like that. But Judith Butler, I don't know. Do you know her? She very important philosopher at the moment, one of the most important philosophers, I think, in the world. She has a concept, and this concept is called performativity. She says, identity is an illusion. We have no identity. We have no identity which is fixed or which is there. What you can do is that you can make your own identity. And you have some materials, like in work of art, and out of it you can make an identity. And this identity you form by performance. You don't form it in your head only, you perform it. And by performing it, you become it. That's what she says. Dus first you have the letter, afterwards you have actually the fact. So you design yourself, and by in what you call iterative process, by doing it again and again and again, you become it. So I designed myself as an elder person, and by doing and doing and doing it, I hopefully become an elder person. That's my, that's what I try.
What was the word?
The performativity. Performativity. By performance, you get what you want to be, in fact. And that's the identity concept which is behind it. Now let's go to, I don't know, somebody has seen this movie?
I just have a question. What was the name of the person who...
Judith Butler. Judith
Butler.
Butler. B-U-T-L-A-R. Somebody has seen this movie already? No? Oh, you have to see it. I think maybe it's already on video, so why not look at it together in one of these evenings? This is really, I saw it in a plane to Los Angeles, and it was a bit scary because it is about all is lost. And when you are in a plane to Los Angeles and you're looking to all is lost, that's not... now we have our fantasy. So, in short, this movie, he just made it. He is at about 75 or 80. I don't know how old he is exactly, but He has made a movie about a person who is going to sail. You don't know why he's going to sail. Just like life, he's just going to sail. So you step into life. You don't know why you step into life. Once you are there. So he starts to sail in a boat. The person you see is an older person, 75 or something like that. And he has this beautiful boat. He steps in, he's alone, he sits there, and he starts to sail. And writing something, drinking something, easy, and you think, okay, this is the way it goes. It ends up somewhere, sometime. The person don't have a name. You don't get his name also in this movie. It's a person. So it could be me, it could be you. And then he's on his boat, and he's lying there and he's sleeping in his boat. And suddenly you hear a crash. You think, my God, what is happening here? So I'm in my plane. You hear this crash, and then it's so beautiful acting. I think I would like to be like that when I'm 55. He don't jump up. He don't get. There's no panic in a way. He thinks, and he is also not comfortable. It's something in between. He has something. Okay, what's happening here? So, let's look. And then he looks, and you see this water coming in and in and in, and he's in the middle of the ocean somewhere. And then he goes outside and he looks, and there is this big container. It's fallen off a ship, and it's drifting there like, in my opinion, like a grave box, like a dead box or something on the water. This big container, and he was sleeping, lying in his boat, and this boat was, and they crashed on each other, and there's a big hole in this boat. And then you see a man who is experienced, who looks at what is happening, what is needed here, and he fixed some things. He has some little things because when you go for an ocean drive like this, you don't think you meet a container in the middle of the ocean. So you have to be inventive, you have to be creative, and he puts all kinds of things together and he fixes that it is okay. Now this movie goes on, and there's a storm, so we can imagine there comes a storm, see, it won't hold, so this boat goes like again. In the end, he has to give up his boat, because this boat is sinking, but there is nothing there in this ocean. He has this kind of, how do you call that? Lifeboat, puts it over, and there sits in this lifeboat in the middle of the ocean. You see this of a point of view from the point of God, in a way. From you look at it and you see this little man in the ocean. It's Hemingway again. And you see him there drifting in this ocean. What you can do there. And now then, he has a little map where you see where the big ships are running in the ocean. And he tries to drift to that place. And then he is on that the line where it is. And then something else happens, because he stands there and he thinks, I'm important. In fact, when somebody with his ship is coming around, he will stop, and he will. So he's standing there and waving, and there's a going a signal in the air, but it just go on. A big ship, a big first a container ship, then with real persons on board, and nobody sees it. Nobody seems interesting. It's just life, they just go on, and you're just something to neglect or something like that. And in all of this move, you can imagine what it is to be like that. What a kind of existential questions this races about the importance of your life in a way. Now he stands there, and then in the end, this. He writes and he puts it into a bottle. The 13th of July, 4:50 p.m. This man who was always, who was working in his boat, this was the important thing. You've met him. You know nothing about his history, if he was married, if children or nothing. You know nothing. And then he writes this, I'm sorry. I know that means little at this point. So he's sitting there in the ocean, but I am. I tried to think you would all agree that I tried. Is he talking about being on this boat? Is he talking about his life? To be true, to be strong, to be kind, to love, to be right. That's what he tried. And you see the face of the man and you believe it. That's what he tried. But, and that's important, I wasn't, he said, I wasn't. And in effect, when you have you don't have a realistic comparison. So the only thing you have is what he says, what he writes. So, what was happening? Is he, is it out with his wife? Has he left his children? Is there something else? He seems to be a nice person, but is he a nice person? You don't know. But I wasn't, he said. And I know you know this. Maybe he's talking to his children. In each of your ways, and I'm sorry, all is lost here. In the end, all is lost. Except for soul and body, that's where he is then. His body, his soul, that's what he can see. That is what is left of them. So that's, he is a person of 75. His soul, his body, that's what's left of them. And a half day's ration. He has a half day's ration and then all is over. It's inexcusable, really. I know that now. And that's interesting because he's in this boat alone. And what you ask yourself is the whole time, what does his family think? What does his friends think? Somebody is going up to the ocean alone in a boat, nice person. And then he says in the end, it's inexcusable. Is it about the fact that he went alone in this stage? I know that now. How it could have taken this long to admit that I'm not sure, but it did. I fought till the end. I'm not sure what this is worth, but know that I did. I've always hoped for more for you all. And then, you don't know to whom he is speaking, but he says, I will miss you. I'm sorry. The last words before dying from a man. I will miss you. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was really, it took me, it hurts when you, and it hurts also in a very beautiful way that somebody can say, when I can say at the end of my life to the people I love, I will miss you, I'm sorry, that's art, in my opinion. That's the art of Angie. Going back to what this third phase of life is. And when we learn from people like Robert Redford in this movie, is that in a way, life has also three other phases when you compare it to the biological phases. You can see next to it other kind of characteristics for either of these phases. The first one is a receptive phase. When I am a child, I want to learn, I want to see, I want to hear. When you work with children in education and art, you see they are eager, and when they are not eager, there is something wrong. But when they are healthy, They are eager to know. They want to know. Then in the second phase, you become expansive in a way. You want to do something for yourself in the world. You want to take space in the world. You don't want to be only receptive and hearing what other people say and what they need, but you want to be the person who puts his spot in his life. And that phase, people like Levegoed talk about it like it's a fighting. It's fighting, and being creative in this period is also being fighting. It is not easy. It is not something that comes in one day at one sudden point. It is a fight every day to reach something, and sometimes it feels good and sometimes bad. And then the third phase, and that was for me when I first met this man on his 90. So for me, he's it was. I heard him for the first time speaking when I was 90 years old. This was, in fact, he did himself what he talked about, and it was that the third phase of life, you end up trying to get things. It isn't important. For him, it wasn't important anymore, but I think for lots of older people too. And there is a very big problem when you see the way older people are treated often. They don't want to get, in fact. The healthy position of the older people is not that they want to get more and more and more. Also when you work in art, it is not important that they want to have more experience, more interest, more information from you because of that they want to get something. That's in the second life phase, very important, and in the first, because you use it in a way. In the third phase, what is very important is that you want to serve. The healthy form of the third phase is serving people. You want to give something back to people. For me, I have a child of 17 and 18. For me, since I have children, it isn't that important anymore what I want. They are the center of my life. I'm not the center of my life anymore. They are the center of my life. And it's not just my children, it's the future generation that is the center of my life. And I feel obliged to give and to serve something to this next generation. I have my share. I had my share. When I look back now, I think I had a good life till now. And now it's important they have a good life. So this is, in essence, for me, a social phase. You want to be something for other people. You see it also with politicians, and you see it also with lots of older people, that they want to do something for older people. And often we look at the biological part of getting old. So they need our understanding, they need this, but if we don't put them in the space they used to be. They are the masterpieces of life. They start to get the masterpiece. They have the wisdom, they have the quality, they have to say something. They want to serve us in our ways of living. So I hope that in the future we will give a bit more space to this fact, and we can learn from people in their wisdom like Robert Redford, and it's in another way than often only the traditional scientific part in it. And what has this to do with the aesthetics? I'm a very big fan of the work of Brancusi, and maybe you're not. It's not astonishing to hear this when you have heard the other part of my what I said. Brancusi is a sculptor, and from the beginning of the 20th century, he was one of the first sculptors in modern art. And what he did, his life was in fact where it here sort of ended up. It was a kind of going to the essence of life. I don't know if you know the story of Michelangelo, how you make a sculpture. For Michelangelo as well, and also for Rodin later on, it was important not that you make a sculpture, you put away the rubbish, the stone, and then what comes out is the sculpture. So the sculpture is already there. It's the essence which is already there. And in fact, getting older is maybe getting away this rubbish. And that you get to the essence, to the center, to where it's really about in life. And that's what Brancusi did in his sculptures. First, his first sculptures, for example, of the sick child, was an image of a sick child lying like this, like a head on a stone. And you saw completely the sick child. It was a very realistic sculpture of it. Rosso also did something like that. Later on, these images get more and more centered. So this image of the child, you later on saw like here in the Sleeping Muse, you saw this nose and these ears, but it was very essential. And in the end, the latest image Brancusi made in this series, and it was in the end of his life, he made this same image called Le Commencement du Monde, the start of life, the start of the world. And it was just an egg. There was nothing more anymore. The essence was just an egg. And in the egg, everything was, because everything could start there in the egg. But it was also a face. You can also imagine that it was a face. You can also, because it was, the form had all these aspects in it. Potentially, it was everything. Now, I always think that's one of the most, when you can end up as an artist in the way Brancusi did in the end. So, from the sick child to Le Commencement du Monde, it's a great story of a life that he made as an artist. What we see when you now go back to the picture of Brass in the start, and you saw this head, and you saw this pain, this flesh, in fact, and you compare it now to what you just saw from Brancusi. And in a way it feels like it wasn't put together again, but it was opened and Brancusi fell out of it. Great artists, I said so, like Michelangelo, Rodin, Brancusi understood that making a sculpture means freeing the essence out of the stone. And there we come, in fact, to the art of aging. Freeing the essence out of the stone. Freeing yourself out of your flesh, or freeing yourself out of this process of aging. Aging is doing away the rubbish and finding a true form. And what is not, Brancusi said once, what is not visible, but what is existent can be made visible. And that's for him, the definition of art. It is what is not visible, but what is existent in a way. And for some people it's spiritual, for some people it has another meaning, but it is visual. You can sense it, but it is not visual. And to make this visible or auditable, that's the essence of art. I think it's a beautiful definition of what art can be. So you can see it. You can't see it normally, but it is there. It's this. You can sense this, and you can make this by your craftsmanship also a reality. In fact, that's what Brancusi tried. For people who are interested in this way of looking through art, there is a book of, he's called Donald Bloomfield Jones. He has written a book, it's called Curriculum and the Aesthetic Life. Curriculum and the Aesthetic Life. And he's a dancer, and he tries, in fact, to do this. He tries, in a way, to tell this story. And he goes back in a lot of things to Gadamer. Maybe some of you know him. He is the philosopher who thinks a lot about the hermeneutic way of doing research. So going back and back again to the essence and playing with the essence, and then that making art is in fact the dialogue between the things you see and hear and giving it meaning. That's what Gadamer was telling about, and Bloomfield Jones makes it into one piece. Now this, what I said, in fact this going back to the essence is maybe in a way a very important perspective for art to look at, and for working with art, with also with aging people, that they are closer to the essence than we think, and that they are not the problem, but that they have the quality. And that's a turnaround in perspective that is often neglected, I think. When I now look at what I do with this in my own research, the most things we do is about, we have the bigger program I'm working on is called the Maestro program. It's running from 2012 to 2016. And we have 4 layers, in fact, in it to work in all these kind of things. The first layer is on the content, when you want to look at art as a form of essential being. You need what we call an individual core curriculum. You need, in a way, that you can point at artists, at writers. You need a kind of inspiration of research and make your own canon in it, so that you come to a kind of performativity. We call that the individual core curriculum program, and we were working on it in design-based in Windesheim University. You also need a method research. So when you want to work with art in this way, it's important to work at new methods of research. One of them is what we call art-based learning, how you can learn from art as a way of knowledge. I've started with it with the picture of Bruce, and later on with All Is Lost. That are forms of art-based learning. I can tell lots more about it, but not today. The third program we're doing is the Craftsman research program. We work with a lot of professionals to become more creative in their work. So that's a program called Creative Professionals. We are now running a new kind of college. We start with and it's called a teacher college. It's a small college for 1,000 people instead of 20,000, what we usually are, as we work at universities where teachers are started to work. And there's also a mastership training program in it. Liberal arts programs are very often where we work in, for the people who know what liberal arts, so the professional arts, the liberal arts, we are just running the liberal arts programs. And we have now also a very big research program on 21st century skills and the importance of it for little children. And it evolves also to maturity and aging. We don't do, at the moment, we are working with some 25 researchers in these 3 places where I work. And it's all about, in fact, the aesthetic understanding of life in all its phases. This is what I talked about. In the future, we will try to do something more with other people. Till now, we didn't really do that, but I was asked several times to tell something about what we do and how we think in the perspective of other people. So in the future we will do some research about this. And because I think that in the society we live on with lots of older people, it is very important that we try to focus on what other people have to bring, and to search for what I said, the Einsteins, the Picassos, the Bourgeois, the Yourcenars, the Borges, the Leonard Cohens, or the Mandelas, inside ourselves, instead of the worlds of the shadows. I thank you.
So, Professor
Maybe
Jeroen Lutters,
maybe
do
there
you
are
have some
questions?
questions?
Yeah.
Yes, so we start with that.
So maybe we have, I don't know if we have time anymore, or
Line
Please
is
just
15
show the
minutes.
last.
The line is 15 minutes.
it's always quick, but are there, maybe there are important questions or yeah?
Are there some websites about your work?
Yeah, and the three institutions I mentioned have their websites. So there you can look up what we do exactly.
It's the Leven.
Bernhard Levegoed University, the Windesheim University, and Artes Institute of the Arts. And that's a broad Institute of the Arts. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Professor Lutters, thank you very much. And this is a small gift with the hope of a warmer and more fruitful future, and with a symbol of what you brought us today.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.